Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm doing a special type of video today. This will be the whole series between me and Shoktrepet. Now you're probably looking at the video length and thinking, how the hell are you going to fit all the games into 23 and a bit minutes? Well, I'm going to have cut it down and given you the best bits of every game, and I'm going to explain why I did what, why the decisions I made, the units I built, and I want to talk through my thought processes throughout the games. Obviously this isn't a live commentary, this is commentated after the fact, so I've already played the series, I know the result, and if you do want to watch the full games, I would highly recommend going and checking out the replays on Command Post, because there were some really good games in this series. You can see in the first game I have picked Marked of Kane. Shoktrepet was GDI in this game. And we can see that I actually got caught out of position here with those Awakened squads, and I didn't think he would get there fast enough to get around the back like that, so I didn't stress too much about protecting it too hard, but unfortunately he was able to get in and snipe that engineer, and then I saw that he'd actually made a move to what is my natural third field. Obviously we're on Twilight City. I had the map choices, so I decided to pick Twilight City as my first map, simply because I just thought Shoktrepet wouldn't have much experience on it, and it's a map I have played quite a bit. Sure, it's been versus lower players like Charles and players like that, but it I thought it would give me a bit of an advantage to play against Shoktrepet on a map that he wouldn't be too familiar with. Anyway, I thought that I'd be able to hold off with infantry until I got my tier 3 down, but he pushed his MCV into me with his Pred APC and made it really difficult because he was placing towers on the front line. I was getting some good EMPs off. I did try to defend with the infantry and the help of some laser turrets. Of course, they've been nerfed in 1.0. Oh, sorry, in the R18 patch, but they do still do quite a nice amount of damage. I did get my tier 3 down and started to produce obelisks, and I went for a second MCV to try and move to his third field because I didn't feel like I was going to hold this position. But I was going to try and destroy as much as I can. And I do send my bikes around the south to try and hit his main base. And I am just pulling my harvesters all the way back. I just felt like I was not going to be able to hold that position. And I am about to place an obelisk down, which obviously will help with the defense, but it's not quite going to get the job done for me. And this fight did sort of drag on for a bit. I was sending my bikes in the south. I was trying to get in and infiltrate to maybe try and do some economic damage. But this Predator APC bullet was just... I was never really going to be able to kill it. That was the issue. I couldn't kill it. I do get these bikes in the back of his base. And there was nothing there to defend, which was really nice. And you can see my second MCV has come out, but it doesn't really matter because he's about to destroy my tier 3. So the entire point of the second MCV is going to be completely useless. I do get a barracks block down, and I try to build fanatics. And you can see I am actually killing quite a few harvesters back there. I think that's the second harvester I've got, and I'm probably going to get a third. But unfortunately, it doesn't really matter because he's going to kill everything I own. And yeah, you can see I start producing fanatics to try and hold this attack from Shoktrepet, but it was about this point I realized I think I'm pretty screwed, and then I was trying to look for my MCV. I thought he might have killed it. For some reason it was just sitting on the corner of the map over there, and I realized that that would be it. I was not going to be able to continue to fight this simply because I didn't have anything left, and I did quit out of the game. So we moved to game number 2 here. Again, I went with the Marked of Kane. I still felt confident with my Marked of Kane, and I picked the map Tournament Odyssey, of course, a map that Shoktrepet and all of the Russians are very confident on. Probably their favourite map. I'd have to guess it's one of their favourite maps. They always seem to pick it. And I did sort of give myself a disadvantage here by picking the map, but I felt confident on it myself. I did build a raider buggy here because I have noticed that a lot of players lately have been using the rifleman spam to deal with these early mock squads, and he did it in game 1 as well. So I thought I'm going to just build an early buggy to try and keep a few of my dudes alive, and you can see I actually keep 2 alive, which is really nice. Being able to keep 2 of them alive, and I do scout out that he's got the War Factory, but I'd already gone for double War Factory, so it was going to be a pretty aggressive game at the start here. I moved my MCV again, which was probably a bit of a mistake, because I actually moved with low power, which meant my units were producing a little bit slower, but obviously the bike buggy was going to be fighting the pit bulls, and it was going to be a really aggressive early game here. Really important when you've got this bike buggy, you want to be microing your buggies in the front at all times, so that your buggies tank all of the shots from the pit bulls and your bikes can just sit back and deal all of their damage. And eventually I did actually push out across the map. And there was nothing there at his expansion. I killed the harvester that was there, and then there was just absolutely nothing left. And then his pit bulls just came out of nowhere. I don't know where they were. Well, obviously they were at his main, but he just didn't send them over for quite some time, and while I had been attacking him like that, I was actually starting to recover and build a few more harvesters, because I did this double war factory off only 4 harvesters, selling off a power plant there to try and get a nice emp, and building that engineer, trying to take that tower. I do get a really nice emp here. I think I hit 5 pit bulls. No, I only hit 3. Well, there you go. Overrating my ability there, but I am able to hold this pitbull push counter-attack back quite nicely. And then in the meantime, he'd actually transitioned into a triple war factory Predator APC, and I was trying to defend out with Scorpion tanks. I was a long way from tech. I was actually going for triple war factory instead, but you can see in his main, or his expansion, I'd actually been able to slip through some black buggy. So despite the attack that was happening in my base, I felt really confident I could hold it, simply because of the fact I had war factory repairs, and he wasn't going to be able to reinforce because he was going to have to try and rebuild his economy. And the main reason I felt confident I would hold this is simply because of mock squads. They're just so effective, and being able to lock down units. And you can see I'm just selling off structures just to get these mock squads and get those EMPs. I mean, I hit 4 units with that EMP, and then I just sort of left my bike buggy there to just kill his pitbulls to make sure he couldn't send them across the map. I didn't want any pitbulls to come across the map, because then he would be able to target my eco. And not long after that, he did GG out of the game because he just had simply nothing left. Game number 3 of the series, I picked Tournament Dust Bowl, no poker edition, and I did switch to GDI Vanilla. I just felt like the way he was playing with the really heavy Pred APC Armada that he was going with, I just didn't know if I was confident enough to play against that with Mark of Kane, so I decided to switch to GDI. Now, he did do a really interesting build here. I actually sold this watchtower to try and scout, and I saw in very early APC, and I was a little bit confused. I didn't know if it was just a scout, but then I saw a second one, and I thought, these are both APC engineers. I just had that gut feeling that these were going to have engineers in them, because why else would you build 2 APCs this early in the game? So I was able to snipe that engineer. He does bait out a power plant cell here. He does drop, and then I thought, oh, I'll sell off the power plant and kill it, but he actually jumped straight back in the APC, so he did bait me quite nicely there, and tried to run around and capture the refiner on the left-hand side. But I was quick enough to stop that as well. As you'll see here, the watchtower comes down. I powered down both refs, and I was able to dispatch that. Staying and build some pitbulls to actually pick off the APCs, but I did hold that without any real damage. And then I transitioned into a pitbull sort of double war factory spam to try and put some pressure on him, because I knew he'd be behind economically after that early APC build. I was able to pick off a harvester there, and then I moved across to this expansion, and I'd already killed 1 harvester just before this clip started, and I was able to get another one. So I felt like I was in a really strong position, and you can see I'm teching up behind it, building Pred tanks, and if you saw in the last clip, there was an MCV heading to my 3rd field, so I thought I'd send my Predator tanks up there and try and dispatch that. And yeah, here we go, the Predator tanks moved in. I was sort of splitting them up so that if there was a Sonic emitter drop, they wouldn't all be in a line. So that's why you see I've sort of sent them all around the MCV, and you can see he sells it off. So I was actually feeling really confident about this game at this point. He did transition into a few Hammerhead rockets, which really caught me off guard, to be honest. They almost were able to take out my MCV with the help of those Preds. You can see I've got railguns now. His Marv has come out, and my Marv is moving to the right-hand side, not moving with my MCV to try and Marvest that field so I could push on his 3rd with the tib that I mined with that Marv. But unfortunately, it didn't work as well. Like, I've seen Drive and Dimitri do this build a lot versus me, and they always seem to just have the money, and I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know if it was because I wasn't waypointing the Marv around or whatever it was, but I just felt like I didn't have the money that I needed to be able to push through. And obviously, you've got to remember, Shoktrepet isn't mining on any field at all, and I'm Marvesting on this field, and you can see when his Marv rocked up, I thought, geez, I'm in a lot of trouble here. I've only got 2 Juggernauts left. He was actually starting to get the husks back as well, because I just wasn't able to focus them down. And without Shockwave Artillery, I was really struggling. The Hammerheads come back in. I hadn't actually killed them yet. And you can see the Marv, it's just sort of sitting idly, which was a big mistake, I think. I needed to waypoint that around to make sure it was continuously mining Tib and getting me more income. Because if you look on the minimap, you can see that I have no Tiberium left on my fields. And eventually I just decided I'm going to have to fall back from this position and actually try and refine. And you can see my MCV on the right hand side is moving in, and my MCV on the left does fall, and I sell off the rest of this position. I do retreat my harvesters, I don't just leave them there to die, and using the riflemen from the sold off structures, I am able to pick off the Juggernauts, or the Juggernaut husks that were left there. But you can see his army is still quite large. I was able to get some Firehawks out to eventually destroy the Hammerhead threat, but you can see my ground force is only a couple of Juggernauts and a Marv. I finally built my tier 4. That would have been so helpful in the initial engagement on the left-hand side, but unfortunately, I didn't put it down. And you can see there's pitbulls in the back of my base. I tried to make one last push across the map. with my Marvin Juggernauts. I knew I had a very inferior army, but I thought maybe if I got some type of godly shockwave, I could turn the tide. He did shockwave my Marv, but my Juggernauts were free to continue shooting. But unfortunately, the Marv was dropped so quickly that the Juggernauts didn't really have much chance on their own. I tried to force fire down the Zone Trooper pod, and I did get it, which was nice. But then the Juggernaut shells come in, and that was all she wrote. And I did, unfortunately, lose this game and go 2-1 down in the series. So game number 4, I picked a Tournament Highlands. And I went for a very early blue tib take. My 4th harvester that I built in the game, I sent straight to the top blue Tiberium field. I wanted to take that early because I know that Shoktrepet likes to get that blue Tiberium on his terms nice and early. So I thought if I could be the one to take it early in the game, I would automatically have a nice little advantage. Because yeah, that's how these players like to play. They like to take the blue tib both fields as quickly as they can. And you'll see he's actually taken the bottom field. So I thought I was going to be able to take both. You can see I had a harvester heading down there already. But unfortunately, like I went for double war factory. I really wanted to go hard with pit bulls and take the map. But unfortunately, he stopped that completely. And these pit bulls, I didn't see them until they got into my tib field. And they were able to just completely obliterate my my economy. But he eventually just... he just sort of stayed in the death zone. I have 4 Predator tanks there, all shooting at him. And the Predator tanks were also hitting a lot of rear armor. And unfortunately for Shoktrepet, he did lose like 8 pit bulls for only 1 harvester. And then I was going to go for a counter-attack in the north. That didn't really achieve much, but I did transition into hammerheads because I knew he was going for infantry. A few sniper teams in the back there, and the Predator tanks to go in for a big crush move. I'm not even really looking at the fight because I didn't need to. All of those units there they didn't need to focus fire. They just needed to A-move into the fight with the Predator tanks crushing. And then it was time to spam the Juggernauts and get a Marv out. And this was a really important moment. He was trying to get a Marv out, and he was double MCV, dropping Sonic emitters, but I knew that if I was able to get the Marv out first, I would be in a superior position. Because getting the Marv out on a field like this first in a GDI mirror, super important, because if you're able to Marvest the middle field before your opponent can, that's a massive moment. Now, I did throw away all of my Predator tanks and quite a few Hammerheads to make sure I was able to kill that Reclamator hub, but it was definitely worth it in the grand scheme of things, because I knew I was ahead in terms of army anyway, and this is a really nice moment for me. I used the Sniper Bombard with the Juggernauts to actually take out his airfield, and I was building Firehawks of my own, so when that went down, I knew I had domination in the skies locked up for myself. Big Shockwave Artillery here. You can see there's 7 Juggernauts for me, and quite a few for him as well, and the Marvs fighting. And unfortunately, that harvester in the north is completely dispatched. The pit bulls are sort of just running in. I don't know if this was a panic Q move by Shoktrepet, but I am slowly whittling down his forces. And the Juggernauts there, unfortunately for Shoktrepet, they sort of were on a move order. Now, his Marv, it almost went down, but it did manage to escape with just a slither of health, which was extremely infuriating because I knew if that Marv went down, I would be able to push through this position. Simply because I just had a lot left. And you can see I'm slowly closing in for the kill. That Marv is so low on health. These pipples are trying to clean up the husks that are there. I'm literally spamming engineers just so I know I'm able to continuously recover my Juggernaut husks. The Firehawks are actually coming in for a bombing run on the MCV because I knew if I could take out that MCV, this position would be out of build radius and would obviously be a lot easier to push through. And as I continue to push through, Shoktrepet, I think, realised it was pretty much lights out. He did go for some Hammerheads, but unfortunately I did have those Firehawks, and he did send these pit bulls and Predator tanks around the back door, but I was able to hold that off with just some infantry. Some Zone Troopers cleaned that up quite nicely, and eventually Shoktrepet is going to GG out of this game. He is got Hammerheads, Firehawks in my base, but they do get destroyed, and I take a 2-2 level in the series. So, game number 5. I chose Tournament Undergrounds, one of my favourite maps, and another map that I felt really confident on. And again, GDI mirror, so sticking with the GDI mirrors. I always feel really confident in GDI mirrors. I don't care if I'm playing Bike Rush or I'm playing Charles. I always feel really confident in my GDI mirrors. Now, I did go again for this early double war factory. I really tried to always be the aggressor in these games versus Shoktrepet because I feel like if I ever got on the back foot versus Shoktrepet, it was always going to be hard to get back on the front foot. But in this game, he actually went for an interesting build. He had that APC rocket there, and then I saw he was going for an airfield and an early tier 2. And then eventually this rig just popped out of the fog at my main field, and I was sort of like, oh crap, I have nothing to defend this. And if you're wondering why that rig is at half health already, I actually dropped a minefield in the middle of the map, and he actually ran straight through it, which is why that rig is already heavily damaged by the time it gets to my base. but the rig push had been started, and all I was building was rockets and APCs. Now, I knew I needed APCs because the hammerheads were coming, and the APCs, even without APM mode, just rip hammerheads out of the sky so quickly. He did kill pretty much all of my rocket squads there, but I had got a Predator tank out, and slowly I was able to whittle down that rig's health and take it out. But yeah, the hammerheads, unfortunately for Shoktrepet, just didn't get the job done, and you can see I've got double ref on my expansion now, so I'm feeling really good about my position in this game. I now moved out with some APC rockets in the south and some Pitbulls in the north, and I went to his expansion and there was nothing here. I couldn't believe it. There was absolutely nothing there and only one refinery. So at this stage, I'm sort of fist pumping, thinking, hell yeah, I'm in such a good position. I'm loading up my APCs with the rocket squads that are there, and I'm killing the harvesters at his expansion. I do move in with these APC rockets, but I think he's actually able to stop them. But then I see this Congo line of Pitbulls and APCs heading across the map, and I just thought this is typical of these type of players. They're just going to attack no matter what. That harvester had come from the blue field, and I just wanted to make sure it didn't die. But yeah, the Orcas were going to come in to his main base. The APC rockets moved to the north, killed that Tiberium spike. But once those forces in my expansion went down, I was pretty confident I was in a really good position. And then when I walked into his expansion and there was nothing to deal with these Orcas, I knew that that was pretty much game over, and I was going to go up 3-2 in the series. Shoktrepet will GG out of it very soon here. These APC rockets, again, just causing issues, and I took a 3-2 lead in the series. Alright, game number 6 was on Tournament Airstrip. I again picked a GDI. It was a GDI mirror yet again. This was game number 6, and I was in the lead for the first time in the series, so I was really getting my confidence up. I did try to see if I would be able to snipe this. I did de-garrison here for a second, but with the way the fences are there, it's just way too hard, especially when he's got 2 rifles there defending. So it was pretty much an eco game this time. It was probably the first game in the series that had really gone hardcore eco style without any really early gimmicks. But I was building some APC rockets here because I did know he had Pitbulls, and I just thought he did this in the game before versus on the Undergrounds game. He built a few APC rockets, and I just found them really effective versus Pitbulls. So I thought I'd sort of copy that idea, seeing as though he'd gone for these early Pitbulls, and they also turn into a really good offensive unit versus a GDI player. So eventually I do move across the map. I can't remember if this was a second MCV or a first, but he had moved very quickly to his third field. He didn't have deck established at this point. And this is the thing with these APC rockets, is they almost act like raider buggies do for bikes. And just tank a lot of damage so that the Pitbulls can just continuously be shooting, while the APC... I mean, the APC rockets, they're a lot more expensive than raider buggies, but they put a hell of a lot more DPS out. And they sort of act the same way. Now, this was a bit of a death trap by me. I sort of walked in here hoping I could kill some harvesters, but I missed-targeted so many times. I think I hit 3 different harvesters, and I ended up killing none of them. I again went into my Firehawks because I saw the hammerheads, and I was like, I want to get some Firehawks out on the field, because if I can get dominance in the air again, it's such an important thing in GDI mirrors, is if you can get control of the skies, you just give yourself such a big advantage. Now, these Juggernauts, they are sort of being picked off by these hammerheads because I really wanted to just move out and make sure I was able to kill that Reclamator hub again. You can see he'd pushed that MCV right across to try and build that Marv straight onto my tip field, and I thought I'd actually killed the Reclamator hub, but unfortunately you can see the Marv just squeezed out in time. And I was pretty gutted by that, but my Marv was out now, and I had Juggernauts on the move, and he didn't really have any Juggernauts yet, so I thought I was in a really good position. Again, you can see I'm going to use those Firehawks to finish off this MCV. The Juggernauts are going to start doing the damage. There's obviously a laser fence on it now, so it is going to be quite tanky, but when the Firehawks come in, I knew that it was going to go down. And I started to change targets onto the units that were going to shoot back at me. And this was going to turn into... This was actually quite a long, drawn-out fight here between us over these 2 fields. You can see I'm not even expanding yet. Like, he's got a ref on that field. I get a really nice shockwave artillery, but I'm pretty much all in at this point off the 2 fields. I haven't decided to go for a refinery yet, and I'm just trying to push through and do as much damage as I can right now. Because I knew if I could win the initial fight, it didn't matter if he had refineries down, because I would just be able to kill them. You can see I'm building Zone Troopers as well, because he had no anti-infantry there, and Zone Troopers are really powerful versus Juggernauts, so that was why I decided to go for that. But I think my Marv is going to go down here. Yeah, my Marv does go down here. Probably a bit reckless by me to just send it forward like that when there was Zone Troopers there. The Firehawks come in for another bombing run on that War Factory, which was really nice. The Firehawks did so much damage in this game. I think if you want to learn how to use Firehawks quite effectively, you should definitely watch this game. Watch the replay. Again, you can see the Firehawks coming in just every time the engagement was going on. I was just coming in with the Firehawks. He did get a nice laser fence on there, but of course I'd done enough damage now that the Juggernauts could finish the job. And that was the thing, is even when he was laser fencing those buildings, the Juggernauts were able to finish them off. And you can see we're both at quite a low number of units now. He does drop a Shockwave Artillery because he hadn't used his yet. And he does get quite a good hit. And I sort of thought, oh no, am I actually going to lose this now? Because all of a sudden I was actually losing all of my Juggernauts. But he dropped oh my gosh, sorry, that was like a stroke moment. He dropped an Orbital Strike. I was actually selling off Watchtowers to get Riflemen. And then I just sort of Q-moved. And I thought, oh my god, I have all these APMO rifles. And they can just kill all of those engineers. I moved in with the Hawks again, and I just continued. It was just these Firehawks were so cost effective, and he never challenged them. That was the big issue. He was dropping AA batteries, but that didn't matter. Like, AA batteries aren't, without tungsten especially, are going to do nothing here. And again, I was continuously bombing his war factories and his refineries as well. I have got a refinery down on my field now, so I am expanding and getting a good income behind this. And I was slowly withering him down. And I knew I could win the war of attrition simply because of my Firehawks. And if he tried to go into his own Firehawks, I would win on the ground because he wouldn't have enough production or enough money to afford Firehawks and afford to keep funding a ground army. And the Juggernauts slowly. It was such a tedious fight because there's a weird thing with husks. I think it's any type of husk. Is that there's a small invincibility period where you can't actually kill the husks. And this was he was just sitting engineers behind that war factory at some point and just continuously recapturing them. Obviously, you can see that he just repaired that war factory, even though it had a laser fence on it. I don't know how that works. But again, just continuously pushing forward. You can see that all of his Juggernauts are lying there in husks, and I've got a lot of husks here as well. And I just couldn't kill, and I was going to bomb the husks with the Firehawks, and I remember for some reason Firehawks don't kill husks. I don't know why that happens, but they don't kill husks. So I wasn't able to do that. I got a random Predator tank moving forward. I'm trying to kill these husks, and this is the period here where I couldn't kill the husks because he was continuously recapturing them. But eventually the Juggernauts did fall, and I started to move forward. Again, he just recaptures that Juggernaut husk while it's being shot at. I decided to move my MCV forward because I felt like I was able to press forward right now. He had no units left. And he'd see it again. He captures that husk even though it was actually dying. I tried to fight into the back of his base to see, and I saw he sold off his tier 3, and there was an armory, and I was like, alright, he's going to go for mass infantry, so that's what I prepared for. You can see I'm already building APCs, I'm already building watchtowers, and blocking them in, and I call in the sniper teams, because I knew this was sort of his last-ditch effort to win the game, is if he could maybe kill my Juggernauts with this mass amount of infantry, he could get himself back in the game. But unfortunately, with the power of the Juggernauts suppressing the infantry with the watchtowers and just being able to building block, eventually the sniper teams come in as well. Shoktrepet was going to lose this position one way or another. He just didn't have enough to push through. When I've got AP ammo, I've got mass riflemen, I've got sniper teams, Juggernauts. It was just all too much, and Shoktrepet called the GG, and I went up 4-2 in the series. Now, game number 7 here, I always have this inkling suspicion when a player is on ace match, they're going to do some type of ridiculous rush. And I just managed to get far enough in to see that he had an upgraded power plant, and I knew straight away it was going to be Orcas. And I just started spamming out Pitbulls, and unfortunately for Shoktrepet, by the time he got his Orcas into my base, I was already ready for them. He did get one Harvester, but I already had 4 pits out. And unfortunately, he got really unlucky here, and they all stacked up, and I was able to kill pretty much all of them before he could do any serious damage, and he called the GG, and that was it. That was the end of the series. So I hope you guys enjoyed that style of video. I've obviously never done anything like this before. Really interested to see your feedback on it. I know I stuttered and made a lot of mistakes verbally then. It's quite hard to continuously talk about what's going on the screen when it's just jumping around like that. So give me some feedback on it. Would you prefer me to upload the full games, or would you prefer this style where I'm explaining and analyzing what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and things like that? Just let me know if you just prefer. Like, I could do both. I can upload this type of thing and the full games if you would like in the future. But if you want to watch the full games for this series, I'm not going to upload them because I want to see how this does compared to normal, where I just upload the games. And if you do want to watch the full games, go and check out the replays on Command Post. They're under Champions League Week 8, Dune Tiger versus Shoktrepet. Go and have a watch if you want to watch the full games. I highly recommend the Airstrip game. I thought that was a really good game, especially if you want to learn how to continuously abuse Firehawks when they are unopposed in a GDI mirror like that. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Don't know what it'll be, don't know when it'll be, but I will see you then. Catch you later.